In the previous episode, we took a look at the League of Legends essentials, explaining the goal of the game. This time, however, let's dive a little deeper on a crucial element, the champions. Welcome to the second episode of the Orange Academy. What are champions? At its core, the concept of champions is pretty easy to grasp. They are the characters that are controlled by the players and enter the battle on Summoner's Rift. During a traditional League of Legends game, this means that 5 champions, each of them different, take on another lineup of 5 champions in an attempt to destroy the enemy nexus. Champions each have unique abilities, both active and passive. These abilities can take on many different forms. Let's take a look at one of the simplest and most easy to understand champions, Annie. Annie is a mage, meaning her abilities come in the form of spells. Her Q ability, Disintegrate, fires a big fireball at the enemy. If this fireball destroys the enemy, she recovers some of her mana, the energy she needs to be able to cast her spells. Her W, Incinerate, also shoots out a fireball, but this time in a cone-shaped pattern, which is able to hit multiple enemies. Choosing the right spell in the right situation is essential. Things get a little different with her E ability though, which is called Molten Shield. It's a fire-themed shield that reduces some of the damage Annie takes. It's a great example of how spells can also be defensive. Finally, we have Annie's ultimate ability. An ultimate ability is traditionally a champion's strongest spell or attack. In the case of Annie, she summons Tibbers, which is her oversized teddy bear. Tibbers attacks everything around himself for a brief period of time after being summoned and can deal a lot of damage. One more thing we have to explain is Annie's passive ability. All champions have a unique passive that can help them during gameplay. In the case of Annie, she's able to stun targets on every 4th spell she casts. This means that players have to keep track of the spells they've cast so they can get the most out of this passive. If this stun is then combined with her ultimate ability, the results can be devastating. Understanding your champion is the key to winning in League of Legends, and it opens many avenues for skill expression. How do champions differ from each other? Champions fulfill different roles and have different archetypes. League of Legends itself identifies 6 primary categories, although champions can fall into multiple ones. Let's go through them one by one. Fighters or bruisers. Fighters are champions that are very versatile. They're both able to dish out a good chunk of damage, but feature some level of durability as well. A good example of a classic fighter is Garen, one of the oldest champions in the game. Mages. A mage makes use of their magical ability to stay in the fight, often standing further back and trying to deal a lot of damage with their spells. They can often deal big damage, but are easy to take down due to their low mobility and often lower health stats. Like we've explained before, Annie is a classic mage. Tanks. Like the name implies, the tank is a champion that lives on the front line. They look to absorb as much damage as possible, and their abilities often disrupt enemies, trying to make life a little easier for their teammates. A champion like Malphite does this job pretty well. Marksman. The marksman, within League of Legends often called the ADC or attack damage carry, can deal big physical damage from a distance. They're often your backline going into teamfights and are essential in taking down the enemy structures fast. Like mages, they're often squishy, meaning they lack both health and mobility and should be played carefully, meaning positioning is key. A classic example of a marksman is Ashe. Support. Support champions are made to help out their team in taking down the enemy, taking down structures or traversing the map. They can often heal teammates or give them crucial buffs. Their playstyle often varies depending on their niche, either sitting further back during fights or living on the front lines. A good example of a support champion is Lulu. Assassin. Finally, we've got the assassins. These champions can deal big damage and they can do it fast. They feature high mobility and high burst damage, but can be easy to lock down and take out. Good planning and correct timing are essential for assassins. Some of the most classic examples are Zed and Katarina. Items. Your champions all feature stats that are unique to them. These could be physical damage, magical damage, health, mobility, and much more. Through the use of items, however, which they're able to purchase at the shop during the game with the gold they've acquired, they can beef up these stats even further. Itemization is a very in-depth topic, however, and often requires careful planning and knowledge the higher you climb in the League of Legends ranks. For now, just know that these items can beef up your champions, and that as a beginner there is nothing wrong with following the purchase order of the items that the shop recommends. Synergy and team building. Of course, some of the champions in the game will synergize well together, while others will actively make working together a bit harder. League of Legends players should be aware of this when building their team, and should communicate effectively during the draft phase when they choose their champions ahead of the game. A classic example is Yasuo, who has an ultimate ability that requires enemy to be knocked up into the air. Other champions, such as Malphite and Janna, make for good teammates, because their abilities also feature knockups, which Yasuo can capitalize on. The League of Legends roster of champions is vast and big, so don't be discouraged at first. It will take you quite some time to learn all the intricacies and abilities of each champion. So don't be afraid to look up what you should be wary of when you're battling a champion you have never seen before, or simply ask for advice from your teammates. All champions have their strong points, but they're never unbeatable and should always have counterplay, in theory. And that's it for the second episode of the Orange Academy. Next time we're taking a look at the ebb and flow of a League of Legends game. That way we can help even the most clueless noob understand what to look out for, so even they can enjoy watching a match of League of Legends. For now, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.